We all need our friends. They build us up, they support us, they cheer us on, they make life more enjoyable. Our plants need friends too. Today we're trying a couple different companion planting methods to see if growing certain plants together helps increase our yield. Let's get into it. So first we're going to plant some potatoes and beans together. I have been doing some reading about the benefits of growing potatoes and beans together because they work together for nitrogen fixation, which can help you to get bigger tubers with your potatoes. I'm planting out some white potatoes in some containers, as well as I have several rows of sweet potatoes planted that I planted in alternate rows. Sweet potatoes, black beans, sweet potatoes, black beans. It made sense in my head because I love to eat those two things together, but also I'm hoping that the nitrogen fixation property of the beans will help us to grow bigger potatoes. Here I am laying out all of the sweet potatoes about 6 to 8 inches apart, where I'm going to plant the sweet potato slips. I'm going to plant them in the tall part of the mounded rows, and in the low parts in between, I'm going to plant the black bean seeds. and the low part of the rows are the beans. Alright, next it's time to get our tomatoes in the ground. We started our tomato seedlings way back in March, and we've been growing and growing and growing them, and I'm so excited to finally get some of them in the ground growing. So I'm planting my tomatoes and pepper plants alongside basil, and basil works together with those plants to ward off insects. So basil, because of its strong aroma, can help to discourage from some insects that would like to eat our plants or use our vegetable crops as a host to lay their eggs. Then of course their larvae would eat the plants. So while in general that natural life cycle is something we would encourage in our gardens, and something I would be totally on board for all of my flower plants that I don't eat, I would love to have less of that bug pressure on the actual crops that I'm growing for food. So having the basil with the tomatoes is going to help ward off some of those insects, in particular flies and hornworms. And I also saw that thrips would be discouraged from feeding on your tomato plants if that's something that's an issue in your growing area if you planted basil next to your tomato plants. Alright, so to sum up, we get 3 rows, salad mix, Swiss chard carrots, cucumber in the corner, which when it gets big I will trail up the fence. We've got tomatoes with basil planted around them, beans in the back, some sunflowers against the border of the garden, a little garden helper, and that one right there, that's the sunflower that we got at the native plant sale, the western sunflower. Up next, so for one section of my in-ground bed, I decided to do a 3 sisters garden. So that would be corn, beans, and squash. And I chose varieties that I love to eat. So I've got some winter squash, I've got some zucchini, I've got some yellow squash. I chose some black beans because that's another thing that I really enjoy eating. And I got some sweet corn. I've never successfully grown sweet corn before, but I just thought, wouldn't it be fun if I had my own homegrown corn? I read about this method when I read the book Braiding Sweetgrass. I'm pretty sure I had seen something about 3 sisters gardening before that as well. It's a pretty common term in the gardening world, but essentially taken from Native American practice to grow these 3 crops together. The 3 crops, corn, bean, and squash, are the 3 sisters, and they work together by each supporting each other in a different way.
Before I could get started planting, I had to prepare the bed. So you'll see me here taking all the cardboard that I had out of the bed that was protecting the soil so that I wouldn't have as many weeds to fight with once I got to this stage.
I won't make it easy for you now. You got 2 minutes of my time, and I don't really break too easily, but I'm worth it, 'cause I'll slip into your dreams tonight. Oh,
Now it's time to get in there and really pull some weeds. Get this bed back to base 0 so that I can grow my Three Sisters garden. Now it's time for me to add my soil amendments. If you were with me to make the raised garden beds, you'll know that I use soil from Tilth Soil that's associated with Rust Belt Riders that does food-based composting. And I bought soil for them for my raised beds. I'm also going to use some of that soil here to enhance the quality of my in-ground bed and provide some great nutrition for my new garden. Alright, after preparing the soil, it's finally time for us to get some plants in the ground. First up, I'm planting the squash.
Corn provides the scaffolding or the structure that the beans can climb on to grow up and to get to the sun. And the beans provide the corn nitrogen fixation in the soil, which means that the corn is going to grow stronger and be able to produce more fruit or ears of corn. As well as the squash, those big wide leaves can help shade the ground, which is going to prevent some evaporation, keep more moisture in the soil, and also help suppress weeds from growing up and competing with those plants. So I obviously am not the expert in this. I've read about it a little bit, and I'll link the article in the description box below to talk a little bit more about Three Sisters gardening. But this is just a method that I had heard about, had done a little bit of research on, and really wanted to try it this year. So I have planted in a cluster my corn. I understand from my research that corn likes to grow together. Because corn is a wind-pollinated plant, the plants seem to be close together so that they blow and touch as the wind blows so that they can get pollinated and grow the delicious ears of corn that we want to eat. So I have those in a cluster in the center, and then I've got squash plants kind of spread out because squash plants get quite big, and then I just have beans sort of everywhere in a circle surrounding the corn. So that's what I'm doing right now. I planted some from starts and I put in some seeds, and I haven't had great success growing all of these things from seed, even though the research online states that you really should all just plant them as seeds and let them grow up together. I did sort of a mix of that variety. I put some seeds in the ground. I started some in my seedling trays and transplanted those in, and we'll just see how it works throughout the season, and kind of learn from our mistakes, learn from things that we are able to do this year and produce this year, and hopefully get better at this type of gardening in future years. Thank you so much for sharing time with me today in the garden. I am so excited to see how these different plant groupings of companion plants work together and thrive throughout the season. I will check back in future garden updates and let you know how it's doing, so please make sure you're subscribed so you can hear how these plants are doing and how they're growing in the garden. I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me today. If you liked this video, please like it and leave me a comment down below. Let me know, have you tried any companion planting before? Which plant pairings work well for you and that you have seen have been successful? I'd love to get a conversation going so that we can all learn from each other. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.